Josh Artuzo, who is the town's Director of Community Development. He is going to be presenting on a Transportation Alternative Program TAP grant application for sidewalks in West Webster Hamlet, which is the corner of Gravel and Ridge, where the old furniture strippers used to be. Take it away, Josh.
Thank you. So tonight I'm going to a brief overview of what's contained in tonight's presentation. I'm just going to recap some of the revitalization efforts that the town has undertaken to date and just refresh everyone's memory of some of the priority plan recommendations that came out of a 2023 community planning study. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the TAP grant program and application process, and then we will review some proposed project scope of work and cost estimates, and then have some Q&A and discussion with the board.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Are the cameras working? Because none of the lights are on them.
I'm sure that they are.
Okay. I just don't see lights on any of them, so I didn't know if they were working or not.
Yeah, they're not on this side.
There it is. There's
That
a light.
It's just because we're on the screen.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's a good
I
question.
just wanted to make sure the cameras were on.
Better safe than sorry.
Sure. Okay, so there's been a lot of activity over the past 5 years in this area, really beginning in June of 2021 when the Webster Economic Development Alliance secured a $90,000 grant to do a planning study, a revitalization plan, and it was approximately a 2-year effort engaging with the community. There was a committee formed, and in June of 23 that plan was finalized. A subsequent application in January of 2024 for sidewalks in West Webster was pursued. Unfortunately, we were not successful in that initial attempt, and I'll explain a little bit in more detail later on in the presentation. And then we fast forward to 2025, where in May the town solicited bids for demolition of the former Webster furniture stripper building at the corner of Old Ridge and Gravel. That was a major focus point of the revitalization plan. The community members wanted that property and the blighting influence to be addressed. So the building ultimately came down in August of 2025 and has created a lot of excitement and interest in the area since. So just going back to that planning study, the priority recommendations basically focused on the intersection of Old Ridge and Gravel roads. That was identified as the highest priority area based on all of the community feedback that we received. On the left upper hand image shows what we call a heat map. So any comments that were placed on the geographic map that we had available throughout the duration of the surveys, as you could see, the orange-ish red colors were where the concentration of the most comments occurred. The middle image is what we call a word cloud, and it basically quantifies the most repetitive words that were contained in the comments, and the size of the word is commensurate with the number of comments. As you could see, sidewalks was one of the most commented on items through this effort. And then, as I previously mentioned, the community really wanted to see the blighting impacts of both 600 Ridge and 602 Jade Palace mitigated. And the images below are just some snippets from the plan, one of which is a rendering of what the intersection of Old Ridge and Gravel could look like with some streetscape enhancements and addition of sidewalks, street lighting, signage, etc. So a little bit about the Transportation Alternatives Program, also referred to as TAP. So this grant funding source provides financial assistance for projects that improve and enhance pedestrian and bicycle safety, projects that provide safe routes to schools for children and parents, and projects that facilitate and promote the use of non-motorized modes of travel. So the grant details, eligible activities include planning, design, and construction of both on and off-road facilities for pedestrians and bicyclists. The application cycle opens approximately every 2 to 3 years. This is the funding source that the town was successful in getting to construct the sidewalks along Ridge Road from 5 Mile Line to Rachel Drive. We were successful, I believe, in 2018, and the sidewalks were designed and constructed through this grant. So there's a maximum request of 80% of the project cost, and it has a local match requirement of 20%. As I mentioned, our 2023 application was unsuccessful, and as the town usually does, we participate in a debrief with some of the folks from the agencies that review the various applications to get feedback on how we can improve upon any future applications. So the feedback that we received was very positive. You know, they were very positive of the project. They literally said that it was perfectly aligned with the program goals. Unfortunately, it was a very competitive year. The only recommendation that they were able to provide us with that said, you know, how to strengthen any future application, it was recommended that the town pursue survey and preliminary design to accompany any future application, which would both enhance the competitiveness of our application and illustrate the town's commitment to the project. So with that information, we did reach out to 3 local survey and engineering firms that do this type of work. And in an effort to kind of provide the most amount of options to the board, we kind of broke it up into 2 scopes of work. Just basic surveying of the right-of-way, plus both sides of the road 15 feet off of the right-of-way. And that would just get us basic topographic and base survey mapping showing things like, you know, driveway aprons, mailboxes, utility poles, and anything within the right-of-way. Then we also asked each firm to prepare a more robust quote that would include preliminary design services that would then take that base survey mapping and start to come up with an actual sidewalk alignment plan. It would identify any obstructions or areas that would require, you know, the town to obtain easements. They would do a much deeper dive on any potential drainage and utility issues with the installation of sidewalks. And it would also include one public meeting with the community to present the sidewalk plan, the preliminary design plan, and 2 internal town coordination meetings. I know on the chart it's listed as also public meetings, but that was intended to be internal town coordination meetings. So each of the proposals were fairly similar in their scope. The one anomaly was the MRB group also included sections of gravel road north and south of Old Ridge. The reason being is that they did assist us with the initial 2023 application, and that phase 1 also included some sidewalks on gravel road. So they took that and kind of built upon their previous work. So the only difference between the 3 scopes is that MRB also includes some additional areas on gravel. So the completion time frames were also fairly similar. All survey only quotes indicated that it would take approximately 2 months to conduct that, weather permitting. And for the preliminary design option, It ranges from 4 to 6 months for a completion time frame. As you can see, the costs also varied quite a bit from firm to firm. Survey only ranging from $15,000 to $42,500, and then the preliminary design really ranged from $36,000 all the way up to just under $80,000. So reviewing all of the proposals, the town staff recommendation would be to go for the preliminary design option that Costage Engineering has outlined in their proposal for a cost of $36,000. So survey and preliminary design, why move forward with this now? So as I mentioned previously, the addition of sidewalks in the West Webster Hamlet area aligns with the priority recommendations in the community-led revitalization plan, as well as really fitting the criteria for the TAP grant program and its goals. Moving forward with this would also position the town to have a significantly more competitive TAP grant application, following through on the suggestions that were provided to us during that debrief. We want to continue the sustained momentum from the demolition of the former furniture stripper building. As I mentioned, there has been an increased interest in the area from the investment community. Adjoining properties are being put up for sale and having new owners that plan to invest money in improvements. We're working with several property owners through code enforcement to get some facade improvements and remediate some other code violations in the area. And it would really build upon the town's commitment to revitalization of this area and build upon other investments that the board has authorized to date. I will say that in the event that we're not successful in getting the grant, I don't think this effort would be all for naught. Old Ridge Road was formerly a New York State DOT road, and it was dedicated over to the town many years ago. So in speaking with Pat Stevens, our highway superintendent, the town literally has absolutely no information in terms of utility locations, catch basins, any infrastructure within the right-of-way. We do not have anything on this road. So even going with the survey would be valuable to town staff for when it comes time to either make repairs or maintain segments of that road. Now, we didn't have anything budgeted in the 2026 budget for this project, but in speaking with Finance Director Paul Adams, he indicated that the project costs could be charged to the general part-town B fund, the surplus unappropriated fund balance that was talked about at length during the budget approval process. So here's an image that was prepared back in 2023, just kind of a conceptual image showing what the area could look like with the addition of sidewalks and some decorative curbing. Also street lighting and signage would also be something that could be considered. So in terms of next steps, we would look for authorization from the town board to make a decision to whether or not to move forward with preliminary design and or survey services from the recommended consultant. If you chose to go that route, we would need execution of a contract with the recommended firm, so we could then give them the authorization to proceed. In terms of next steps after that, we would work with our existing grant consulting firm to begin preparing the TAP grant application while the survey and preliminary design work is underway. And then we would be in position to submit a highly competitive TAP grant in 2026. So I will say that the prior cycle opened up applications in the month of November, and applications were due in January of the following year. As of November 6th, tonight, the portal is not officially opened, so it has not opened. So we do believe that it's going to be pushed later into 2026, potentially, spring. And I'm not sure if the government shutdown has anything to do with this, because it is federal highway funds that flow through the state's DOT. So with that, basically, and just in case there's any questions about overall project cost, part of what the consultant we're talking about tonight would do is prepare updated cost estimates based on the preliminary design that gets generated. So back in 2023, the extent of that project was estimated at approximately $5 million, which would have made $4 million eligible for the grant, with a local match of approximately $1 million. So those were in 2023 dollars. That also included a larger scope. But part of what this consultant effort would also confirm is to finalize cost estimates of the project based on preliminary design. The estimates that were prepared for our initial application were very conceptual, because, again, we don't have survey or a preferred alignment, so it was very conceptual at that time. So the only commitment would be for the $36,000 to execute the survey and preliminary design work. So I will end the presentation again with the graphic that shows what the future vision contained in the revitalization plan shows versus what it's like out there in present day. And with that, I'd be happy to turn it over to the board and answer any questions or hear any comments you may have.
Hey Josh, thank you for bringing this information forward. You answered a couple of my questions already. Do you know what the total linear footage was for the Ridge Road project and the total linear footage for this phase, or for this West Webster?
I believe it's just over a mile. It's not popping out at me right now, but yes, I believe that the stretch of Old Ridge between Bay and Empire is 1.1 miles, so just a little over 5,000 linear feet.
Okay.
And then the previous proposal extended it, I'd say maybe another 500 feet in either direction on gravel,
Okay.
which is not part of this current proposal.
So you mentioned the 36,000, and quite frankly, I'm amazed at the differences in these price quotes.
Yeah, they were
It's astounding.
wide-ranging.
Yeah. Now you mentioned the 36,000 for the preliminary design, but they have listed here also the 15,000 for the survey. Would we be paying for that too? I would assume, right, or no?
So again, the 15,000 was for the survey only. If we add the preliminary design aspect to it, the total would be 36.
Okay.
So it's inclusive of that
Gotcha,
15,000.
thank you. Now, what are the specifics with respect to this grant, should we get it?
So if we were to be successful in obtaining the grant, up to 80% of the project cost is eligible for reimbursement, and there's a 20% local match requirement.
Okay, historically, what is the time frame in which the reimbursement comes through with that?
I believe that it's tied to progress. I don't think it's one of the grants that you have to basically expend the full amount and then get reimbursed afterwards. But based on our experience with the TAP grant that we got for the Ridge Road sidewalks,
Yeah.
I mean, Paul, do you have any indication of how long it took for the state to reimburse us for that project?
About
Yeah, it was relatively quick, if my memory serves me.
Thank you.
I do have a question, Josh. You mentioned that the portal has not opened, although last time this process was in place, it had opened in November. One of the recommendations was that we have this survey and preliminary design. Does it have to be completed before we can put in an application, or is the fact that it's in process enough to make it a stronger application? Since we don't know when the portal's gonna open.
That's a good point. Our number one goal would be to try and have this work completed
Right.
and submitted alongside our application. And that's why we wanted to bring it, as soon as possible to the board. I think though, if we were somehow unable to make that happen, if for say the weather didn't cooperate and they weren't able to complete it by that time, I think the fact that we state that we have procured the service and it's underway, I do believe that still gives us an edge up. But our number one goal would, and we've made it very clear to the consultants, that our goal is to have it done as soon as possible.
So I guess then I have just one more question. Do you have any idea of how long that portal remains open?
Yes, so as I mentioned, I think last time around it opened in early November, and then applications were due either at the end of January or early February. So
Sorry,
it was,
you did say that, yes.
It was about a 2 or 3 month window.
Okay. Thank you.
My questions were similar to Patty's about timing. And if the portal isn't open yet, and we're working on the comprehensive plan, which is going to be making progress and in that similar time frame come forward with, I presume, preliminary recommendations. So does it make sense to push forward with this now, knowing the portal is closed? Or try to time it closer to the report from the comprehensive plan?
Okay, so no, that's a good question. So because we went through such a robust planning effort within the past 2 years, finalizing this revitalization plan in '23, we intend to incorporate the recommendations of that plan into the comprehensive plan. So I don't really see a need to wait in terms of waiting to see how the comprehensive plan comes to fruition. This area is actually one of the focus areas of the 2008 comprehensive plan. So we're kind of actually just now getting around to starting to implement some of those. So I wouldn't say that it would need to wait for the comp plan to progress. And I will say that we are fairly confident that there will be a 2026 round, because Congress has allocated a substantial amount of money into this program, and it's on their website that it has been funded. They just haven't opened the portal yet.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Jenny, anything?
No, right now, with everything's going on with the government, I'm just gonna worry about the grants and things. And for us to put this effort and everything in it, and I hate to see that it's gonna come back and the taxpayer have to end up, chewing up this for this project because we didn't get the grant. So that's the only thing I'm concerned about.
Okay, and I don't really have a question as much as a comment that I think it can't be understated that the December 2022 income survey, which is now 3 years old, that is a real feather in our cap that we were able to prove that is an under
Low to medium income, yeah.
Webster doesn't get grants a lot of times because we're an affluent relative community. that area's income study that we did, and I give Matt Chatfield a lot of credit for having, for pitching us to go do that, because that is something that's a real feather in our cap when we apply for grants in that area. If I remember correctly, Josh, that study is 5 years life.
Yes.
Good time flies.
27.
3 out of the 5 are gone. So we can utilize that income survey that gives us advantages for 2 more years. And then that's poof, and some other future board, if they want to do something over there in that hamlet, would have to get another survey and whatever.